All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Tennis Channel Inside In on the Tennis Channel Podcast Network. Mitch Michals from the Santa Monica studios. Delighted as always to bring you another guest in the tennis bubble, someone that I'm really looking forward to talking to, Vice President of WME Sports and IMG Tennis. He's been with the company for over 15 years now. Marijn Bal joins us. Marijn, thanks for joining the show. And first of all, I got to look. I think you've had really one company your whole career. Is that right? It's basically been one employer.
Thank you so much, Mitch. First of all, for having me, and excited to be on your show. I'm a fan, so I was pleasantly surprised when you asked me to be on, but happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah.
Not sure how much I'm thanking you for making me sound and feel so old with that intro. But yeah, 16 years at IMG, and the first and only job I've ever held. So I don't have much experience interviewing for jobs, if that's what you're after.
No, it's a real cool story. One, because you're in the thick of it and the sport that we all love, and being able to in this climate have the same job and work your way up, which we're going to get to. I guess we can kind of start here. I mean, your hours and how busy you are, and knowing how tennis is such a global sport. We talked before you just got back from Europe. It's a never-ending job, but with all these time zones, I wonder if your body clock is just on, not even a time zone. Like it's just a natural, I have work to do and I'll just get it done when I can.
Yeah, I mean, I always have one very simple answer to this question, and because I get asked many times, and I say that this job is not a job; it's a lifestyle. You don't go into this and be like, okay, I'm going to be like 9 to 5 and live a comfortable life. This is a commitment. It's a commitment to saying no to many things and not being able to do certain things, but then therefore being able to do other really great things. But definitely the saying it's not a job, it's a lifestyle is probably very appropriate here.
So for the fans on the show and the people that know you but might not know your whole story growing up in the Netherlands and playing college tennis and then working your way into this industry, were you the kid growing up that just always loved tennis, or did you discover it a little later in life?
No, I discovered it at a pretty young age, but I wasn't really any good until I was like 12 or 13, so it was quite late. But I started playing when I was 6 or 7 years old, which, if you compare it to the professionals of today, they all started when they're 3 years old. So I was very late with that. I was never the most talented player at all, but I think there's a quote that says hard work outlasts talent, right? Or something in that direction. So I always had this motto from, even though I'm not as talented as you, I'm going to outwork you. So that was really my philosophy. When I was 11, 12, 13 years old growing up in Holland, I was going on vacation with my parents every summer, to the south of France or Spain or whatever. I have two brothers, and we were challenging each other in the car rides down on vacation of who can name all the top 100 players on the men's and the women's sides and also name their clothing and racket sponsors. And wow. I had that down to a T when I was 12 years old. So I always had this like interest for tennis besides playing myself. And, I was a decent junior in Holland, but nothing special. I was never good enough to ever become a pro. But I loved the business side of tennis, even from a young age, and really interested into what that industry was like. And I don't know if you want me to dig all the way into my history, but
it's fascinating to hear that. One being, I don't know many people, and I know a lot of like tennis, like I'd call them nerds, that could get through the top 10 to 20, knowing all their fashion brands too. But I wonder too, because you played at a high level. I know a lot of people like to sell themselves short because they compare themselves to pros and whatnot. But, going to North Georgia, getting a college scholarship, coming over to America to play. But I'm wondering if you viewed tennis as a vehicle to get to where you wanted to go, if you thought that it could be something for your career, or if you just kind of organically discovered that working in tennis was the way to go.
I mean, you're asking me a very good question, and the answer is very simple. I realized I was never going to be good enough to become a professional tennis player, like I said. But I loved the idea. When I was 16 years old, I spent a summer in Cleveland, Ohio, and I did again the same when I was 17. Yeah. Now you're laughing because Cleveland, Ohio.
No, that's where I'm from. That's where I'm from. That's why I'm smiling. I wasn't laughing. I would never do that.
Okay, it's also the original headquarters of IMG, and there's quite a story behind that. I met someone on my first summer when I was 16 that worked for IMG, and I had absolutely no idea what IMG was when I was 16 years old. But we played tennis, and years later, when I was in college, when I really started to figure out what I wanted to do and realized that IMG was the premier tennis management agency in the world, obviously that connection was made. But to answer your question today, I sit on an airplane way too many hours, as you can probably imagine, and often I think to myself how lucky I am that I can do something I truly love. I'm extremely passionate about that. I can work in this industry. I can work with these amazing players, even though I never had a chance to compete against them or have a career playing. But I have a career, or
Yeah.
great career, because I played tennis, because I was enthusiastic, because I worked extremely hard, because I made a lot of sacrifices, and now that has given me the ability to have a great life just because I loved hitting against the
Yeah.
fuzzy yellow tennis ball. So, yes.
Dan, it started with an unpaid internship, right? I know that's a hot button topic, but for you, it sounds like that was a no brainer. Like just anything that said, get me in the door at IMG, you were going to say yes to.
Yes, it was. It's a lengthy story how I got there, but in the end, it ties back to when I was 16 years old. I spent a summer in Cleveland, Ohio, teaching tennis at a summer camp and staying with a host family. I met a guy that worked for IMG at the time because he was friends with the neighbors of the people that I stayed with, and he heard, oh, there was like a young guy in town who loves to play tennis. So we ended up playing tennis a few times, and 7 years later, I was a senior in college, and I was starting to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, or what I really, I did the usual. I wrote letters to Nike, to Adidas, to Under Armour, to every brand you can imagine. I wanted to work in sports marketing and management. That was also my majors in school. Obviously, never heard back, but I remembered that connection that I once played tennis with someone from IMG, and called him up and asked, can I take 20 minutes of your time, and can you give me some advice of where do I start, how do I get my foot in the door? And he helped me get that foot in the door, and IMG awarded me a 2-month long unpaid summer internship. I was based at the academy in Bradenton, so right out of college. I graduated on May 5th, and on May 7th I was in Bradenton starting a 2-month unpaid internship. I worked, I would say, 19 hours a day during that internship. Just, I said, I'm in the door and I ain't leaving. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I was doing absolutely everything I can to put myself in a position to have a chance. But until the last day of the 2 months, that chance never came. I literally walked into the office at 5 p.m. on the Friday with my computer in my hand, having a whole speech prepared and saying, like, listen, I enjoyed these 2 months so much, and this is my dream. I want to become a tennis agent one day. If you ever have an opportunity to hire, I would love to be considered. And they put me on the spot and set me down in a chair and told me that we have opportunity to hire an assistant, and this is the salary, which I will not divulge on today. But I started from the bottom, and you work your way up. I had to have zero decision making time. I signed my offer letter on the spot, and it was the same attitude I took in tennis when I was a young kid. I will outwork, I will work as hard as I can, I will get there. It doesn't matter how long it takes, but I will get to that position of ultimately becoming a tennis agent. And I'm pretty grateful for that.
Well, it sounds like, first of all, there's a lot of good intel and advice for the young people out there listening about networking and just not being denied and pushing through. No, and I think it speaks volumes too, the fact that you were able to just continually outwork the competition and know that, like you said, it is a lifestyle in a lot of ways. Also sounds like that salary, it wasn't going to be a deal breaker. You were just going to say yes.
Never. I would probably done it for free if I had to.
Yeah. Talking about the lifestyle, Marijn, you have to devote your whole self to it, and you have to embrace what I like to call is the grind. If you find something you love, but it is a full undertaking process, you have to embrace the grind. And if you could talk about how you're able to do that in terms of, not just day to day, but planning stuff out. There's a lot that goes into your job. There's a lot of time consuming stuff, and people can feel overwhelmed in any job that they love. How are you able to deal with that and just take it step by step and ultimately still find fulfilling success in what you do?
Yeah, I think in the end, I always get most motivated by the end result. I start with the end result. Like when a player wins a big tournament and lifts a trophy, that's ultimately what we all work for, right? And I, in my humble situation, try to play as big or small as a role in that as I possibly can. For some players, that means I play a huge role and I help them make pretty much every decision. And for others that I work with, it just means you're a small part of the decision-making process. But whatever happens, when that player lifts the trophy, I usually have a hand in that success. Now, I'm not sitting here to tap my own chest to like, okay, I did that. But like normally, I don't teach him how to hit a forehand or a backhand or a serve. That's the coach that does it. But more likely than not, I had a hand in hiring that coach or suggesting that coach. If they are winning, they're probably usually very fit. I probably had a hand in which physical trainer to hire, So there's a lot that goes in there. And of course, when they win, then the business side becomes, easier and
Sure.
attractive. And then, I really show my real worth most of the time. So I'm extremely motivated just by helping people. I think I've been asked before, what would you do if you weren't a tennis agent? And I would probably do charity work because I really enjoy helping others succeed and others maximize their opportunity. So that keeps me afloat. That keeps me motivated. But these players are great human beings, all of them. They're all very different. But every day I wake up and I pinch myself that I get to do this for a living. I'm very privileged. I don't have a 9-to-5 job, which sometimes I curse about that, but other days I'm extremely happy about it because I can deal with my own schedule quite easily. But I when I work, I need to work. When I can take time off, I can take time off, and of course I find my moments that I enjoy. To reset. I love to go surfing. It's that 1 hour or 2 hours, a few days a week, or during the weekend where I can't be reached on a computer, not on a cell phone, not on nothing. People can, I'm unreachable, and it's a very free, cool feeling. But after 2 hours, I get a little antsy. It's like, what if I miss something? You got that FOMO. So that is what this job does do to you. You are constantly on the go. You're always thinking. I'm a big thinker. Like when I drive to the office in the morning, I prefer not to do any calls from the car because I try to use that time to like think, to brainstorm, to let my thoughts go. Like what are the things I'm going to work on? What do I need to accomplish? How do I need to be proactive of something that may happen in 6 months, but I need to start working on that today. I need to prepare for that success that may be down 6 to 9 to 12 months down the road. So.
Very insightful stuff. More with Marijn Bal here on Tennis Channel Inside In, Vice President of WME Sports, IMG agent. Really some good, insightful stuff there. And you mentioned working with all these players. And I know, your roster, which I want to get to in a little bit, but you've worked with a lot of top-end players. A lot have accomplished so many different things. And we know that players all have different personalities and different needs and desires. How do you balance knowing when to maybe get more involved and maybe knowing when to just back away? Is it a feeling out process or just something you've kind of learned with experience?
Yeah, I would say one of the most important characteristics of a tennis agent and is people skills and being able to read the room. I think those are two essential items. When you start working with a player, it obviously will take you a little time to understand their personality. Do they like you to be super involved? Do they like you a little involved? They want you to speak to you during the tournament, or they don't want to hear from you during the tournament. Like you have to find a balance. So you need a lot of people skills. You need, the ability to read the room, to know when to say something. It's like this push-pull kind of concept, right? Sometimes you gotta push a little bit. Sometimes you gotta pull back, and you just have to understand the situation. I think with all my clients, I have like a very good like personal relationship. So I think there's a lot of trust, and then it becomes a lot easier. You understand how to communicate, when to communicate, what to communicate.
No, I think that's very good, and it's very telling that you value the relationship first, like you said before, more than the Grand Slam itself or the trophy, because there's going to be another tournament, win or lose. And I think that's part of the process there.
I mean, most players lose once a week, unless you win every tournament you play, you lose once a week. So you got to be prepared for that, and you have to have that mindset that not every day is sunshine. So that.
Was there anything kind of jarring about the job when you first started out? Something that you weren't really expecting, that it was an adjustment, maybe even new skills you had to learn that you weren't really expecting?
I mean, that's a very loaded question. I feel like everything was new. When you start in this business, you know nothing. I mean, you think you know, but you don't. And I think that's a huge, powerful thing to have. I started as an assistant, as I explained. And we
Yeah.
have had many of our agents in our tennis division started like I did. You go down the list of the people that have been here the longest. We all started as assistants, and it's a good opportunity for 3 or 4 years. You're working on the desk, like we call it, of one of the senior agents whose assistant you are, and you learn the ropes. You're listening to the calls. Once you do 1 year, the second year you're dealing with the same people at the same tournament you did last year. So you're building relationships.
Right.
And after you've done this 3 or 4 times, 3 or 4 years, you have the tools. Of course, you won't know everything, but you understand how to structure a deal, how to pitch something, how to negotiate something, but also the relationship building part is the most essential part of this job. Like if you don't learn to build relationships from the day you walk in the door when you are an assistant, once you are flying on your own wings, you need
Right.
those people, you need those relationships, and you've built those while you were an assistant. So I mean, going back to your question, I'm getting off topic, is, I mean, everything was new, but on the end of the day, it's not brain surgery what we do, but your success rate depends on how well you build your relationships and how you treat other people. I think that's the two key parts.
Well, the relationship side of it is key, as you mentioned, and also knowing how deep the roster is at IMG, your roster in particular, knowing that you're going to have to rely on people, and you'll have, like you do now, assistants and people you're going to have to empower and trust. And that was one of the things I heard about you, is willing to empower others and kind of help them. Once you get the tools from someone else, then you're going to pay it forward. How do you balance that, knowing, okay, you love what you do, you want to serve all your clients, but maybe it's time to empower someone else? Maybe you've been stretched a little thin. It might be time to pass something off, balancing that.
That's very nice to hear. Yes, so I have, obviously, paying forward is huge for me. I do it in a few ways. I get, obviously, quite often an email or a call from someone in college that read something or heard something, and wants to do what I did, call someone up that can maybe open the door, put a foot in the door. And I always take the call, and I always take the time to help and where I can, because I believe that's my best way, of paying forward and giving others the opportunity that I once had, because someone opened the door for me once. So I feel the only right thing is to do it for someone else. And yes, I've, obviously been lucky enough to, throughout the last, 8, 9 years, to have, people work under me and on my desk and help them, groom them to become agents. And yes, there's a natural transgression with clients. Those people that have worked on my desk, they work with most all of my clients, and then sometimes there's the one or two that are just a natural fit for them to continue working with, and I step out. I always stay involved on like a senior over
Yeah.
kind of site level, and I'm always there. But ultimately, I want to give those that the next generation that come after me, which makes me feel like so old, which I'm not.
The same way.
That
Yeah.
they get that opportunity and the experience, and they deserve it. Like, they wouldn't be here if they didn't do an amazing job and can lead this group forward.
When you're, when you guys are accumulating talent in the roster, which I mentioned, very impressive. I'm wondering too, without getting into specifics, but are there characteristics that you notice that maybe separate some of the very, very good and very nice people, the players that you represent? When you're first interacting with them, is there a special sauce to what their personality is, like characteristics that you see that can really make a special person?
Yes. I think it boils down to what the core values that I have as an agent, or what do I stand for as a person. For me, is what you see is what you get. Like, and I think, speaking of some of the players that I work with or have worked with, they all have a lot. They have something in common: is they're really good people, and I like to work with good people. And I spent a lot of time in this job, and day and night basically evolves around their life. So I'm not going to spend my time and waste my time if you are not respecting me or working with me in the way I want to work with you. So listen, everybody's different, but the common denominator are that the people I work with or have worked with are all great human beings, and I'm very appreciative with that. And they make me love my job, and that's, at the end of the day, what's most important.
It certainly is, and I know you've had your fair share of good memories with some outstanding clients. I guess the first question I was going to have in that regard is if you could tell us now which one of your clients is going to win the gold medal this year. Keep it going.
Well, the 2016 and
Yeah,
2021, 1 year delayed
yeah, yeah,
because of pandemic were two of my clients. So
yeah.
I hope to
Yeah,
keep this gold medal string at the Olympics going, but
yeah.
maybe that will. I don't know. Let's see. I don't want to make any predictions because I did
Okay,
not do that before. So maybe I shouldn't do
okay.
it either. It happens again.
No spoilers, but for those listening who aren't up to speed, yeah, in 2016 it was Monica Puig, who we've seen do some work here for us at Tennis Channel. She's been on this show a few times, and then Belinda Bencic, the 2020 Olympics, played in 2021 in Tokyo. But I'd have to imagine that of all the things to be a part of, I mean, winning an Olympic gold. I was a kid who grew up, you know, idolizing all these Olympic athletes, and even you in Holland with how important the Olympic Games are. To be a part of a run like that and then have it twice has to truly be indescribable.
Crazy. I don't even. I mean, it's a long story. Monica's very special. Was one of my first clients that I signed when I graduated from assistant school, for the lack of a better word. She was barely 18, and I was a young agent. I'd been an assistant for like 4 years, and they gave me the green light to go sign my own clients. And Monica was one of my first pro clients that I signed, and we went through all the trials and triumphs together. With obviously as a highlight. The win in 2016, which, I mean, she will acknowledge when I tell you this that no one expected that. That was not in the
Yeah,
cards. And I mean, the Olympics for us in tennis is great, but it's once every 4 years, so it's not something you really prepare for from when you're in my shoes. Um, I did not plan on going to the Olympics at all because it's not really like a business purpose to be there. Um, but the week started, and you're just looking at it from, okay, there's an amazing sporting event going on. I have a few clients that play the Olympics, and we'll see how it
yeah,
goes. And then all of a sudden, she was in the quarterfinals, and the next on a Friday, she had to play Petra Kvitova, who was my other client, still
mhm,
is, in the semifinals. So I was sitting in my office in Florida, thinking like, oh my god. One of my clients is going to play in the final of the Olympics tomorrow. I don't know who it's going to
yeah,
be, and the other one will play for bronze. Um,
yeah.
and it's a lengthy story, but all of a sudden Monica wins that semifinal match, and she walks off the court and she says to me, "You better be there tomorrow when the final is." And I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm in Florida and
Got to
this
get
is
to
be there."
Rio.
So
Yeah,
I stress searched for a flight. I literally ran from my office. I raced back home. I got a small bag with a toothbrush and two pairs of underwear, a pair of shorts, and I jumped on a flight overnight to Rio. I got there in the morning, had no credential, I had nowhere to go. I didn't speak Portuguese, nothing. I didn't have a place to stay or anything like that, but I made it. Um, and I got to see Petra win bronze first, which was hugely special, and then I was there for that gold medal match, which was
wow,
like a amazing experience. Like I've never been to an Olympics before because I didn't have a reason to be there.
yeah,
And then to be there for that was very unique.
yeah. I saw the video recently of you guys embracing
Mhm.
after she won, and you were just like looking at the medal, like this is a real gold medal here,
Now
So
I know why she asked for that video. She asked me a few weeks ago if I still had it, and of course I did.
yeah,
So yes.
yeah. No, and Petra too. I mean, that's you talk about the relationship with the player through the trials and tribulations, the ups and downs. Being with her for the run of the highest of highs,
Yeah.
one of the worst things that's ever
Yeah.
happened to a tennis player with their off the court stuff,
Yeah.
and coming back and being a match away from number one and winning Miami last year.
Yeah.
Truly remarkable stuff, and shows you that the value of your place in the piece of the puzzle of being with her through those ups and downs.
Yeah, very special, very, very special person. Petra became my client 2 weeks before she won her 2014 Wimbledon. So here I was as a young
Pretty
agent,
good.
and all of a sudden, she became my client, and 2 weeks later won her second Wimbledon, which was amazing experience. And yeah, we've gone through so much, and she's taught me so much as a person, as an agent. She's made me such a better person, just learning from her and being with her. And I call her one of my closest friends today, still because of all the things that we've gone through and what she stands for, and is a good person.
Yeah.
Great
Yeah,
champion.
we're all happy for sure. Two-time Wimbledon champion, starting family life, still has a lot of
Yeah.
tennis to give. And I just wanted to mention too, kind of on a hot streak you mentioned with some of your players doing well. Uh, some of them playing their best tennis. They seem very professional, very process oriented, committed to the game, and it hasn't happened overnight. And you're seeing the results come over time as a result.
Yeah, it just shows you that tennis is not something for success overnight, and even if it happens overnight, then you got to weapon yourself to eliminate to eliminate that again, which is not so easy. And it, if to me, like, we always have this discussion: is tennis the toughest sport there is, or is it not? And I think mentally, physically, it is. It has to rank up there because it is very tough to combine those two. More than any other sport, I would think. Plus, we have a nearly 11-month season, which isn't that easy either.
No, I believe it can't be to have to be in shape that long. Marijn Bal here on Tennis Channel Insight, and wrapping up with him on the podcast, the Vice President of WME Sports. Some lighter stuff to end the show. I wanted to get to some things. One being, you mentioned that call to be on an overnight plane to Rio. Was that the craziest call you've gotten from a client? You don't have to say who. Is there anything else more sudden or any crazy requests?
I get them every day. No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean, of course, the fun part of this job is
Yeah,
like, people think like, okay, the agent is just responsible for the business and that's it. Well, let me tell you,
yeah,
it's very different than what that is, and it looks so glamorous, but we are like in the thick and the grind and the bottom of things. I would say so. Many athletes, or in different sports, or even in entertainment, they have a manager and an agent, right? Two, on paper,
mhm,
very different things. But in tennis, we're the manager, we're the agent, we're the psychologist, we're the travel booker, the visa appointment maker,
yeah,
the hotel reservation booker, the dinner reservation maker. Like, you can't imagine. We have done it all. And we still do it all, and I don't mind doing it all, because that is actually the core of what we do. We try to make their life easy and enable them to succeed by taking all those things off my plate. Now, do I do all
mhm,
those things myself? No, I've got great
mhm,
people working with me to help me do those things so I can focus on the bigger picture, on the business part of it. But um, crazy call. I mean, listen,
yeah,
nothing surprises me ever. There are really special. I would say, is more special moments. When
yeah,
a client calls you that they're pregnant. That is a big milestone, or that they get
yeah,
engaged, or that you help orchestrate some of these things. I helped one of my clients with his engagement proposal. Like, things like you don't
yeah,
get taught in college, at all. But
yeah,
you have the relationship, and you have the trust, and you have that skill to
yeah.
to enable them to do all the things they want to do. And I think that's what I'm most proud of.
It's a big point you made too. I didn't realize it until you said it. Food and dinner reservations, big deal. It's really big to make sure you
No,
get
but
that
it
all.
is normal. Sometimes if they
No,
want
I
to
know.
get into a restaurant, they can't get in. The first person they're
Yeah,
going to call is me, and I love that
yeah,
they do that. And then, so I got to make sure I got all my relationships in all the important places, that when that call comes, I got to make one phone call and make it happen.
mhm,
And that's,
yeah,
that keeps me on my toes, but it motivates me to be, always one step ahead. When I know that could
yeah,
potentially happen, I've already planned in my head how I'm going to do it.
right. No, it makes perfect sense. Do you feel like an equal sense of pride when two clients play against each other, or is it a little bit of just uncomfortable, like a parent watching two kids play each other?
I have had it many times
Yeah,
happen, and especially on the girls' side. Belinda and Petra have played each other multiple times. Both of them are really good friends, and I have a very special relationship with both, so that made it quite easy. Um, I'm gonna say something that I mean, but I'm not very good at it, even though I try to get it better. I try to not get emotionally attached on a result at this point, but it's harder than you think it is. Like, I always try to say I control a lot of things when they're out of the tennis court, right? But the second they walk on that court, I can control anything. Like, I probably have pretty good control what time of the day they play, which court they play, who is their coach, and who do they surround them with, what clothes they wear, what racket they play with. Like, I can control a lot of things, but I don't control when they step in those four lines and the first service hit. I can't do anything. I can't change the outcome, so I just let it happen.
okay. No, I mean, I think it'd be pretty cool too to know that, you've done so much for so many players that they are matching up against each other, that it's, kind of good they're able to showcase that talent out there, and you've done
Yeah, I
the
mean, it's
best to
it's
put them in that
it's a
position.
proud moment for sure, because you know that you helped get them to that point, and you have two people that obviously play at a high level compete against each other. I have the privilege to work with, because truly, that's what it is. It's a privilege.
Yeah. Well, if there was a 16-year-old kid out there in Holland or America and they were thinking, man, I want to work in tennis, and this Marijn Bal guy is very, very much an influence and someone to follow in. What's the first thing you tell them about the journey that they would try to be on or would be starting on?
Never take no for an answer. You can be rejected 99 times, but if you try 100, there's at least going to be someone picking up the phone and saying yes. It happened the same for me. I sent letters to, even when I went to college, I sent literally at the time when recruiting happened, like this is 2004, which seems like ages ago, but there was no, how did today you upload a video and you send a link or whatever. Like I burned DVDs with myself playing a set of tennis against my brother, and I sent it to 100 colleges, and I got 7 responses, so 7% response rate. And this is just, you have to have that mentality. If you want to succeed in something you truly love and you want to accomplish, you can't rest or sleep or take no for an answer until you get there. And taking initiative and being proactive and thinking ahead and doing all those things, if you have that in you, no matter if you get told no 99 times, there's going to be yes.
Yeah, and just getting yourself in that room, in that door, and then separating yourself from there and keeping the work going. It's very remarkable and inspiring stuff. Last question, Marijn Bal. You mentioned surfing, but anything else that you kind of use for that break? You don't have many hours in the day to get to breaks, but other hobbies and other things you like to do.
I got into snowboarding a lot the last couple of years. It's something I never did growing up, so I'm very late to the game, but I'm extremely passionate about it. I lived in Florida for a long time and then moved to California 6 years ago and picked up surfing because I just really love what it stands for. I'm a water person. Growing up in Holland, you're surrounded by water. I love anything that has to do with water. But somehow I got into snowboarding a few years ago. I'm very passionate about it. I'm actually doing one more run in Mammoth this weekend to close out the season and before I go to Europe for the European part of the swing. So.
Nice. Well, yeah, it sounds like you like anything that involves taking a break from your phone, locking that up for a little bit. That's where
Don't we all? Don't we all?
Yeah,
I'm always
so
afraid
true.
every week when you get that average screen time, it's like, oh boy.
It's not pretty. It's not pretty on my end either.
No, but it also makes me feel very powerful because in a way you can accomplish a lot. I mean, technology today is incredible. I mean, 15, 16 years ago when I started, I was working on a BlackBerry. You could answer messages. Now on an iPhone, you can do, there's no Apple commercial or anything like that. But you can do a lot. So it gives me freedom to not always have to be on my computer because I can do a lot of things from another place. So.
It is pretty insane where we've come, but I do appreciate this. Marijn Bal, Vice President of WME Sports, works for IMG, one of the best agents out there, very giving of his time to others, to his clients, and appreciate you coming on the show. We'll have to do it again, but best of luck to you and all the people you represent. Thanks for coming on Tennis Channel Inside In.
Thank you, Mitch. Thank you for having me.